Now in Arizona, Florida, and Oklahoma as the primary season winds to a close. Many of these races are another big test of President Trump's influence in the Republican Party. Among today's races, taking the focus, Florida's GOP Senate primary, the president endorsing Republican Governor Rick Scott, who's facing off against businessman Rocky De La Fuente. Also in Florida, the primary race for governor, the president backing Congressman Ron DeSantis over the state's Commissioner of Agriculture, Adam Putnam. And in Arizona, my home state, 3 GOP candidates are competing in a fierce Senate primary. Congresswoman Martha McSally, former state senator Kelly Ward, and former Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio, all running for the seat now held by Senator Jeff Flake. The race also being watched closely following the death of Arizona Senator John McCain. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey will select the late senator's replacement. So, Christian, the president's been pretty successful in his primary endorsements so far. Where do you see this going?
I think McSally has led in all of the polls, and all the indications are that she'll prevail. And she'll have, of course, a full term of the seat vacated by Flake, of course, a senator who was very outspoken against Donald Trump and didn't, frankly, want to face voters again because voters, especially in the Republican primary, probably would have fired him. Corker from Tennessee in that same boat, and we'll see about Ben Sasse from Nebraska as far as these primary critics of Trump. Trump very popular in Republican circles. Of course, the governor has a challenge in deciding who to fill the seat vacated by late Senator John McCain. Choices between perhaps one of the runner-ups probably not Sheriff Joe, it'd probably be Kelly Ward in today's primary, or to go with someone who's already been in Congress like John Kyle, the former senator. Yeah, and his chief of staff, I also think, is in the running for that position. But Lisa, the president has been successful in this all but 2 out of 37 races. He has successfully endorsed the primary candidate for Republicans in Senate, House, and governor's races all across the country. How do you think he's going to fare today? Do you think Ron DeSantis is going to pull it out, or is Pam Bondi's endorsement going to win the day?
I think DeSantis pulls it off, which would be a good test of President Trump's power in, the endorsement process, because DeSantis was behind Putnam, and now it looks like he's made up that lead, and I think he does pull it off. My understanding is they're both polling essentially the same in the general election, so I don't really think it makes too big of a difference. Also, President Trump's approval rating in Florida is around 50% now, so I think Democrats are going to try to make this an anti-Trump thing, but I don't necessarily think that's going to be super effective for them there. Also, obviously, in Arizona, I think Martha McSally is going to pull it off and win soundly, which is a positive thing. It's a good thing because there will be a tough general election there, and she will most definitely fare better in the general election than Ward or Arpaio would. Yeah, Adrian, there's concern among Republicans in Arizona about the Democratic nominee for Senate, Kyrsten Sinema. What's your inside information on how they think that race is going to go for the general election?
Yeah, I think the DSCC is certainly looking at this race as a potential pickup for Democrats. Kyrsten Sinema is a very moderate Democrat. She's somebody who's very popular in the state. So we'll see how these 3 duke it out today. I think going back to, another factor to keep in mind about today is that Governor Ducey, of course, is also in cycle, but he has the responsibility of picking John McCain's replacement. So he's made it clear that he's going to wait until after the services of Senator McCain, but he is also going to have the pressure of picking somebody who is either in the Donald Trump part of the GOP vein or somebody who is more moderate in line. And
so do you think he'll look at this race and use it to read tea leaves?
Well, I think he's got a lot of pressure, right? Because number one, he is in cycle, so he has to consider whoever he picks that will potentially affect him. I think that's overblown, though. I think all that's overblown. I mean, he's going to be reelected based on his time serving. I think whoever he picks to fill the late Senator McCain's seat is somewhat irrelevant. I just think there's so much being made over it with the whole Trump phenomenon that I don't think it's that big of a deal. President Trump is very popular in Arizona, so I do think that there is some risk to Ducey picking someone who is too, quote, moderate on the Republican side. John McCain did face re-election multiple times and had challengers each of those times from the right. And so Doug Ducey does have to make this decision. But he still always won. I mean, even against... He did always win, but he had this machine behind him, and now it's an open playing field. So I do think there's some political risk of Doug Ducey not picking someone who is to the right enough and on the side of Trump rather than more in the middle. I don't know. I'm just not buying that. But I get the reporting on it. I don't buy it.
Yeah, and shifting gears to Florida, one of the big questions there is the Democrats are really trying to reclaim the governor's seat there in that state. Do you think that's a potential possibility depending on which candidate they end up with in Florida?
Yeah, I think it's a potential possibility.
They've held that for decades.
I know. In Florida, Florida is such a challenging state. The saying goes, I think, on the Democratic and Republican side, if you're a campaign operative who can win Florida for your candidate, that's a big, big deal because it is basically 3 separate states in one state, right? You've got northern Florida, which is very southern, very much like Alabama. You've got the middle of the state, which is, sort of the core of Florida. Then you got the southern part of the state, which is very, heavily Cuban, a strong Cuban population and a Hispanic population.
Are you worried about Bill Nelson? Because he's sort of proven to be a pretty horrible candidate.
I believe there are Democrats who are worried about Bill Nelson. I believe that the Bill Nelson machine will prevail.
Is there one, though? Because they're really not.
And
he's embarrassed himself
he's been reelected quite a few times. So I think he will prevail, but I think it's going to be a tough race.
This could be a big change, a big pickup for Republicans in a number of states. There are obvious ones like North Dakota, but Florida and others, specifically Missouri, maybe Montana, West Virginia, really a big change and, a change in this whole blue wave dynamic. And another thing with Florida, I think likely retaining Republican governor, it eliminates the ability of the Democratic Party to generate stars outside of its left-wing progressive Washington atmosphere.
Exactly. Well, we will be watching and covering it here right on Fox News Channel. But in the meantime, Secretary of Defense James Mattis making a new announcement with tensions between the U.S. and North Korea on the rise after President Trump suddenly canceled Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's trip to Pyongyang. Now the Defense Department saying future military exercises on the peninsula will go forward. So what does this mean for efforts to denuclearize North Korea? We're glad to have former State Department Advisor Christian Weithen here to weigh in on that. So stay tuned.
We took the step to suspend several of the largest exercises as a good faith measure coming out of the Singapore summit. We have no plans at this time to suspend any more exercises.